The project must go on. Time is of the essence. We got 4.5 hours. Um, and we're going to get it done because I have a lot of information to drop on you guys. I was just doing a little brainstorming and looking at the numbers with time in class. And actually, we only been in class for 2 days. we only been in class for 2 days. That's an 8 hour day. So we've only been in class for 2 days. So we have 3 more days of class. Last day ending with a practice test. He's like, what? Yeah, it's been 2 weeks. If you add up the time, 8 hours a day work week. Everybody's like, what you mean 2 days? So, hey, today is going to be that day. I've been saying it since day one. Put yourself in a conducive environment that promotes learning, because today we're going to be in the book. So I would advise you get your PDFs up, get your books out. If you have a hard copy, get a highlighter. If you're using PDF, find out where your highlighter is on your PDF, because I have too much information to put on slides, and putting information on slides is the worst way to teach or get your point across. I wish I could put all pictures on there like Apple does. It's like the best slide presentation. The best use of PowerPoint ever is an Apple keynote. One day I want to give keynotes like that. One day. Shout out to Steve Jobs. uh, I'm not worried about that. We're changing lives over here. You're talking about your career. A lot of people always ask me, like, Chris, how much is it worth? I tell you this much. Back in 2017, when I went from Chris McPhee to Chris McPhee PMP, it brought me a $8,000 pay raise. So when people ask that question, is it worth it? I'm like, that's up to you to determine, not me. Right? So I know it's worth it because that was my story. Some people's like, oh, it's not worth it. But hey, the truth is in the eye of the beholder. Good morning. Good morning. All right, where we at? 85, looking good. 86. Let me drop the sign-in sheet again. Let me check the quiz, make sure I marked the answers. Lessons learned. I'm checking the answers now. People, just letting you know, team. I'm checking it. That's what I like. Instant feedback. Let me see. Okay, I see some check marks on there. That means I checked the right answer. 5. Who's going for 100? Who's 10 out of 10? Call it. Let me see. Show me your confidence. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. Ricky West says yes. Going for it. You guys should smoke this. People, the people domain is just slow down a little bit. You guys already know this. Remember, I said your reality versus theory. The quizzes prove that your theory, your reality is in line with theory. So if you're doing really well on these practice exams, then you're right on track. Right on track. Let me see. I wanted to see. All right. All right, it's 12:01. Let's do it. I'm dropping the quiz. Make sure. Oh, you know what? Let's make sure. I saw what was happening. Did everybody get the sign-in sheet? If you need it, give me a thumbs up, raise your hand or something. Here it is again. I think somebody was trying to chat with me. Let me see. Boo boo. I got some note takers there. Good morning. Okay, awesome. Understand. Gotcha. Okay. All right. All right, let's do this quiz. I'm excited to see what you guys do. Let's go. Early bird gets the worm. The time is 12:02. Stop at 22 after. All right. Let's see really quick. Let's see what we got. I think a lot of you 10 for 10. Any you guys looking good. Looking good. Out of 114, 15. Looking good. Got a couple out there. It's okay. But majority of you, 43, 10 out of 10, 56, 9 out of 10, 12, 8 out of 10. Yeah, looking good, looking good. Let me see. Yeah, yeah, you gotta establish the way ahead before you start implementing procedures. That's where that's coming from. Go for it, Shane.
I think you just have to read the question, right? The first one is the one where you're like, oh, I know this,
Yeah, yeah,
and I
yeah.
read both questions
Exactly,
like
exactly.
I would have been like, oh, okay, yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Well, that's what this test is. I mean, it's we've all taken SATs, A plus, CISSPs. Any exam you take, you got to slow down because we're in a hyper mode, and we could chase a shiny object. Let me see, probably Warren. Yeah. Frustrating is growing, productivity is failing. You guys did good on this one. Some of these people, just think about this. How would I say this? You know what our if you have kids on here, when you're in public, you don't want to spank your kids in public, right? So you take them out, you take them off to the side, or some people just go ahead and let it rip right there in aisle 6 at the grocery store. But in the workplace, it's different. It's a team effort. We gotta solve our differences in the open. So just think about it that way. If there's an option to solve it in the open, unless it's something personal to that person, like maybe they're not feeling well because they're emotionally overwhelmed because they had a death in the family, then yeah, that makes sense, right? Pull them to the side, talk to them, but if it's something like this with another employee, and you take one person out to the side to talk to them, then you're kind of like singling them out. Right? That's kind of where that's coming from. Go ahead, Jose.
Yeah, so the way I took it also is that it seems like there's a growing frustration. That's how I read it, that the team is overall, everyone's kind of even though it's a few that could be the the guilty parties, but everyone's seeing it. So if it's an opportunity that everybody gets to see, that just to reestablish the kind of like the rules of the game for everybody, just so that way it's said once again, and that way also it lets everyone know that you've addressed it.
Yeah.
So if you pull one or two people aside privately that are the culprits, that does well for those two people, but then everyone else is still like, well, when's PM gonna address the issues, or it's kind of sometimes good to let everyone know that, hey, let's all get back to
Yeah.
a baseline
Yeah.
and establish these rules. That way, sure, there's one or two that are guilty, but so that way everyone in the room knows that we're addressing it once again equally across the board, because there's growing tension and frustration across the team. So.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to address the cause and the effect at the same time. Right? You gotta handle them head on. Like don't let me get no. That's how we do a lot of stuff in reality though. Just to be honest. All right, cool. No majors. You guys did good. Crushing it. Couple standardize all communication to email only, facilitate. Okay, hybrid protection team, remote prefers written updates. What should you do? Misunderstanding, increase work. So think about that. If you try to standardize all communications, what about your stakeholders? Think about that. Because project team also includes, not to read into it, but, it could be, one of those members could be a functional manager that you need resources from. And they're like, no, man, I got too much going on to sit at my email. If you want some work, you better get on me on Teams or something, right? So you got to think about it like that. When you say it's like an absolute, oh, we're just going to all do email only. Like, I don't think that's fair. You got to read the room, right? You got to read the room. What's your project environment like? All right. It's remote, So you just got to figure out what's best for everybody. All right. It's got to be a consensus across communications. Like, hey, let's meet in the middle, right? Craig, go for it.
You kind of just mentioned it and everything. I mean, because when I looked at that question and everything, it was more like, collaborating with your team and everything and say, hey, let's come back and figure out like what's a good communication plan and working together to come up with a good standardized plan that what's going to work for everybody. You trying to, standardize it for for the team and everything might have some, want to say blowback and everything and might not work for everybody. But if you come back as a collaborate, a key thing for, project manager for leadership is to collaborate and to work with your team to come with a solution to solve the problem.
Yeah. That's not that approach. Everybody email. That's not servant leader lifestyle, right? That's more authoritarian leadership directive. Like everybody shut up, respect my authority. Emails only, right? Go ahead, Jose.
Yeah, just what I had a question of more about question 5.
Okay.
So, where it states that you've already given the stakeholder, wait, is it 5? No, I apologize. 6.
Okay. I was like, man, everybody got it right. Like, what's the issue?
Yeah. So, and I did get it right because I had to default to like theory versus like what would I do?
Oh, okay. Let me hear this.
Right. So it says that you're mentoring a junior, program manager on conflict resolution, and then after 3 coaching sessions, that they're still struggling to handle stakeholder pushback. So my question was, and so I defaulted because I wanted to go to D, which is, look, we've already given them 3 opportunities. like I need to like continue moving the project along. At some point that was my question was like, so I defaulted from D and I was like, okay, what would the book say to do? And so I'm like, okay, well, let's build up another scenario, try to get, there's a training and teaching opportunity to change it up a little bit instead of, the theory, let's do now, like, shadow me or whatever. So, but my question to you is, and I don't want to say real world, because I know everything's going to dictate on situation dependent, but, like the reality is how many opportunities are you going to have to try to like mentor someone when you're, probably pressed against some sort of, backstop of a timeline. And, like great, like you've tried 3 times, like you can document like, yo, like we went back and forth 3 times, but like, maybe the next we'll just sit this one out or I'm going to reassign this portion because this one's probably a little tougher for you to, digest or get through with this particular stakeholder. So let's just move you to different stakeholders, get someone who's a bit more assertive, and then like re-engage with your mentorship at a different date. Where does that line where like timeline versus like that mentoring, like where do you just got to cut sling load and say, yo, like, let's put you on an easier stakeholder and then just give this one to someone that can possibly make shit happen.
Okay. Thanks for that. Let's decompose this. Let's break it down. So 4 decided not to choose A. So let's look at this. We don't know what have they done in those 3 times. Right? We don't know. So we start there. So we don't know. What's the next best step? We've gone through it, mentoring. I mean, I would say the PM might need to check themselves and see what type of mentoring techniques they're using. Maybe their communication is not correct. Maybe their style isn't matching that person. You can't mentor everybody the same way. One of the coolest interview questions I was posed to me as an instructor is like, well, if the student's not getting it, what should you do? And I thought about it. I was like, well, shoot, I need to check if my delivery is correct. I might be saying something jacked up. That's why I always say, does that make sense? If you say yes, then I keep going, right? I keep going. So the next part of this is you can't reassign the stakeholder to another PM. You can be like, hey, stakeholder, I don't want you working with that PM. I want you to work over here. You can't do that. So allow them to continue learning trial by error. That's not effective. That kills their motivation. And it's going to cause more problems for you because you're not addressing the issue, and then provide them with more reading material. That's like me telling you, hey, go read the book. You want to know about the exam? Go read the book. I said what I had to say. Go read the book. I can't tell you no more. You keep failing these practice exams. Go read the book. Right? So the best answer here for us, based off of theory, is to, just work through it again. Use another method. Maybe an active approach, a proactive approach to mentorship versus just talking them through. Maybe you did a talk through. What we say, military training, demonstration. Then you do the talk through, and then the practical exercise is the walkthrough, right? So by those 3 times you've heard it, you should know how to do this thing already. All right, so we don't know what approach. So that's why. So most of you guys did good. Those of you who did not answer that, just always remember what is the best. Am I solving a problem? And then there's things you don't know, so you can't make assumptions, right? In real world, you definitely. Let's do a couple. Go ahead, Natalie, and let's get moving. I was trying to stall while everybody get here, but let's get moving. Go for it.
I just wanted to add, I'm on a project right now,
Okay.
and we're implementing a new payroll system. And
Okay.
we a project manager, and on both sides, of course, there we have two women with very strong type A personalities,
Ooh.
and they
Dope.
continuously go
That's dope.
back and forth constantly. And I just was waiting for the PM to address the issue, and I just stopped coming to the meetings.
Ooh.
I felt as though they weren't productive, and I told my supervisor I'm not coming to any more of those meetings. So once I voiced my concern, I guess the project manager talked to talked to both sides, and the next meeting was pretty productive. But I
Nice.
wasn't going to join the meetings if something had to give.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice.
But
Nice real
he's a
world.
really good project manager, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice real world. So I got a question for you. What could you have done besides not coming to the meetings?
I think I did what I needed to do. Tell my supervisor because I'm not getting in between them. They just, I tried and I just gave up.
Oh, yeah, okay. You try, yeah.
They
Because
just
I
have
mean,
their own. Yeah, I'm not.
you the project. You're not the project lead on there.
No.
You're a team member. So I think your approach based off of your authority level was you voiced it to the
Mhm.
project manager, and it was apparent that there was an issue that they were ignoring, and finally you made them get up and do something. So no, I think you did the right thing, being that you're not in the position of authority. You're not, you're not the one to put everybody in check. You're a team member, right? I
Yeah.
understand that. I understand. No, good. Thanks for that. Go ahead, Shane. Last one.
Yeah. So I think a lot of these questions have to do with the way we were trained as leaders, as far as in the military, and learning a new way to deal with problems. And once you can adjust yourself and figure out that new way to deal with problems and quit going off your heart, right? And going off of what you've been learning, I think it'll start to be a little bit easier. I know I find myself answering questions a little bit easier when I put what I've learned aside and what I've done in the past aside and start thinking more, I guess, servant leadership, right? And then you talked about books last week. Insight is a really good book because it starts to like take self self-reflection of yourself and figure out, hey, how am I dealing with this, how am I thinking about this, and what am I doing?
Yeah. No, that's no, appreciate that. No, yeah, you guys. I think all in all, remember this exam is theory, and it
I'll just look at the news. Because
the
they're just
the more you the more you lean towards your reality.
yeah,
Hot mic, hot mic, hot mic, hot mic, hot mic, hot mic.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. Yeah. So let's let's do this. Let's do this. Let me get these slides up. I think we got some work to do today. I hope everybody's got your coffee. Get your coffee. Course presentations, module 2. I was like, oh man, I lost my slides. The slides are not in here. What happened? What happened? Make sure I got the right slides. This one. There we go. I have to remind myself. But this should be a good day. We're gonna get into processes. We last sessions we've been talking about leadership, a whole bunch of things, and so this time we're about to dive into. Excuse me, give me a second. Oh, this would be better because I can see what's going on. I'm just tripping sometimes. Come on, Zoom. All right, my fingers are too big. There we go. There we go. Cool. All right, there we go. That looks good. I'm happy with that. All right, you should be able to see some slides there. Everybody, let me get my little clicker. Just need 5 more monitors for this. All right, cool. Let's take off. Let's take off. So we are in the process domain 2 of the project management framework, 50% of the exam. This is a very important portion of the exam. There's a lot of content here, a lot of concepts, a lot of lexicon, a lot of theory that most of us don't use in our workplace when it comes to project management. We might use some parts of it, some genre of it, some version, but in regards to the PMBOK guide and the Agile practice guide and the process groups, a practice guide, and all the supplement literature produced by PMI when it comes to managing project, there's a lot of content. But for this exam, everything you need to know is within these 2 items, the PMBOK guide 6 and the process group guide. I wouldn't recommend going any deeper than that because those books do suggest there's other literature out there like earned value management. There's other literature out there. So, excuse me. So we're going to dive into task 1, execute project with urgency and value, manage communications, assess and manage risks. And then we're going to discuss the 12 principles of project management and then also go into these performance domain. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the 10 knowledge areas of the project management framework and the 5 process groups. 5 process groups still exist, but what the PMBOK 6 has transitioned in PMBOK 7 are the 12 principles of project management, right? So you won't see a whole lot said in PMBOK Guide 7 about the knowledge areas because they have reframed them into the 12 principles and the 8 project management performance domains as it pertains to stakeholders, planning, project work, team uncertainty, all that good stuff. So that's what we're dealing with when it comes to this information. So here's the theory stack from the beginning of the course from now. These are the things you should know. If you don't understand these concepts, let me know first. Go read the book. Now, let me know first. I work with you and help you. See how that works? Now, I will work with you. We can have some study hall sessions. You could come to Wednesday or, hey, Chris, can you touch on this a little bit more? And I can do that. But you should know this right by now. We've covered this already, the foundations. You need to know this because this is going to be the basis for your knowledge when it comes to working through all these processes. So not only do you have to deal with people and all these theories of interpersonal skills, your power skills is what they call them. Now you have to figure out your ways of working, right? Ways of working. Yeah. Thanks for that. I see that. Thanks for that. EFFs. What's that? That's something. Well, hold on. You didn't say nothing about that. Let me check my.
I was sure enough wondering.
Yeah. Let me check. Give me a second. Let me check my. My slide deck, because if you're not careful, who's ever had that happen? You launch PowerPoint, and if you don't, there's a timing mechanism on there, and it automatically starts pushing your slides forward. And it just threw me for a loop one day, and I was like, "What's going on?" I started losing it. then I was like, oh, this is what's wrong. But anyway, this is what you need to know. Organizational structures, functional matrix, projectized, leadership, team and leading stakeholders, team development theories, Tuckman's ladder, and McGregor's and X and Y theory, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Those are those team development theories you need to know. Conflict management, negotiation, collaboration and mentorship, team with stakeholders. And then we covered working virtual teams and communications. Right. So this is what we're diving into now is our domain 2 people, task 1 and 3. You should have your exam content outline to follow along. And initially, we're just going to talk about those items. Just work with the slides because as I know, as Rodney pointed out, this a lot of this information is not sequential in the book. Right. And that's how these domains are. It tells you these domains and principles are not sequential like they were with the knowledge areas. The knowledge areas, you have to flow through them a certain way. And they happened at different times and more so than others. But a lot of this information is overlapping. So the content's everywhere. It's everywhere. Right. It's a little bit of here, a little bit of there. So for the tasks, let's just focus on on the slides. The reference numbers are there at the bottom of the page, so you could lock in there. But this first hour, we're just going to get through these tasks because we have to cover the 3 approaches to project management. Right, and the way we're going to go that, I'm gonna just give an overview, and then we're going to just dive in to each one a little bit further individually, hour by hour. And do the easy stuff first and end with the predictive approach, which is most of your work. So execute project with urgency and deliver value, right? You've heard me say it on day 1. We execute projects to create value. MVP, anybody strikes strikes a thought of that term? There we go. Nice. In the chat. Minimum viable product, right? Minimum viable product. There's another acronym we use at our organization because the environment is so uncertain and ambiguous. We call it GITMO, good enough to move on. Right? That's another term. That's what you should be doing in an agile environment because you don't know. It's uncertain. You don't know. The scope is not straightforward. Like if you're building a home, I need 3,500 square feet. I need 3 bedrooms. I need 4 bathrooms, double car garage. Here are the plans. I want it drawn out just like this, right? So you know what you have to, but when you're developing new software that hasn't been developed before, you just have to get it to where it works and the customer is satisfied with it. And you go through multiple iterations, cycles, or do-overs, is what they are. It's like the iPhone. Somebody said, I was listening to somebody said, the iPhone, we're on version 17 and we've been paying for it. It's still not perfect. So think about that when you're in an agile space. You just need to get good enough to move on. MVP. Let me see anything else I'm missing, but that's a big takeaway here. We have to deliver a value, and the way you do that is by planning and all those things we've talked about. So with virtual teams, Did we get some slides? No, this is good. Let's see. That's what it say. What would be some success factors if we're operating with virtual teams to deliver value? What are some things you might want to put in place or get things going as a project manager?
Norms,
Go for it.
team norms.
Team norms. Okay. Anybody else in the chat? Comms.
I would say like having people feel more comfortable with, with what they want to say and not feeling like they're not being heard. So like open feedback
Okay.
sessions.
Core hours, meetings, collaborate wins. Yeah, because that's going to help make sure the project is done. Comms is important. That's why I say most of your job is going to be communicating. And when you're operating virtually, the only way you're going to push things forward for delivery is you got to communicate and make sure things are going. You can be communicating as much as you can when it comes to that. So here's some of the enablers. This is straight out of your access to opportunities, support MVP, maintain urgency while respecting sustainability. All right. Just some more factors when it comes, just a blanket. Hey, you should know this. Nothing specific that where we're going into a process, but having this mindset. I think most of the way these tasks are written, some of them are directly related to an approach or a process, but the way they have written that outline, I think is just to get us in a frame of mind of like, okay, this is what area, these are the things we should be thinking about. And then you just have to dive a little deeper into the processes of what can we add to this to make sure the project is executed with urgency, right? Like having time schedules, work breakdown structure. If you're in the agile space, you're might run shorter sprints. And, anybody familiar with that term? We should have did a little bit of reading ahead. Sprints, just a unit of time could be one sprint, and time blocks of a week. So no more than 30 days, 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, but no more than 30 days, right? That's what they're telling us based off of theory. All right, we could set those time blocks. Go for it.
Yeah, compared to the exam counter outline, because I'm like literally side by siding it, and like I'm seeing which I see some of this paraphrase, but there's one on the content outline which says examine the business value through the project. Throughout the project, I mean.
Yeah, throughout about it. So earned value management.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what they're speaking to. And also too, what you see in the content outline, it's not all the enablers are not listed in their entirety. Right?
Okay.
It says it there in the content line. So this is just to get us started. Right?
Okay.
This is not the end all be all. This is just to get us started in the right direction, right? That's why you need a course like this, a facilitator to kind of hey, this is what you need to focus on. But I want to use this because I feel like a lot of people miss that when it comes to understand the content. It's like, hey, this is your guide to help you study, because this was on a test. So you do a deep dive on how do you create value in your organizations through projects. Is there a best practice to do sprints back to back or good after sprints? It depends. It's a technique, right? That's all it is. It's all theory. It depends. Each environment is different, Each environment is different. Each project is different. So we know if we want to iterate fast, then we use shorter sprints, 1 week, 1 week, 1 week, 1 week, and we push the button, right? We try to organize our product backlog in a manner to where the work and how we organize it is we could put it in those 1 week blocks and iterate faster, right? So that's how you could optimize and speed up the process by breaking, a task down into maybe 2 tasks or 3 tasks or 4 tasks and just get them done quicker, or do split team ops. You might not need, if you have a project team of 4, you might not need a project team of 8, you might not need all 8 working on one task. You could say, hey, you 2 work on this part, you 2 work on this part, and then put it all together and kind of speed up the process. So the managed communications task 2. Sounds like we've talked about this before, right? Communications. We talked about how to communicate, but this speaks more on managing the communications. Like we said, those time zones and blocks, and whether we are using email or Zoom or Slack, what type of reports we're producing to push forward to our stakeholders. So yeah, just managing those communications. Like I mentioned, most of your work on the project, so you have to be consistent and be proactive. That's the key. Proactive, leaning forward. Military term, leaning forward in the foxhole. You have to be like with your toes hanging out that thing, leaning forward. And some of these projects in the organizations, just to stay on task, especially if you're working abroad and you're working international. So, and then you're going to see this a lot. Write this down in caps and circle it. Tailoring. That's going to be a thing you're going to do. Tailored by stakeholder needs, tailored to the environment, tailored to the project team, tailored to the customer, tailored. That's something you're going to always think about when you're assessing the environment, the situation, how you're going to approach the project. You're going to tailor the project in the ways of working you decide to use to the situation, right? So tailor. Always think, how do I tailor this to this situation? How do I tailor this to this person? All right. So analyze stakeholder communications needs. What do we in the process groups? What are we doing? In initiation, when it comes to stakeholders, what are we doing? Somebody tell me, what's one of the processes in initiation? Number 1 is what? Let me see. What's one thing we're doing in initiating phase in the predictive sense? Charter, right? Charter. Same thing in Agile. Like, what are we going to do? The Agile mindset is like, hey, and I think Rodney said this the other day too, and I wanted to make mention to it. Let's for the sake of the PMBOK guide, let's all agree that the word adaptive is the word we need to focus on first, right? Adaptive is the concept, the adaptive approach. That could mean an agile concept. That could mean a Scrum concept. That could mean a Kanban concept. That could mean extreme programming. See where I'm going with that? And so if you see adaptive, the umbrella term for all those other genres of adaptive or agile under the umbrella, they're kind of interchangeable unless they specifically say, hey, Scrum Master, hey, we're using this type of extreme programming, or hey, we're using a Kanban chart to execute or analyze something or manage this. So, but the other part is ID stakeholders. Somebody says that. So ID stakeholders, we're analyzing, we're trying to figure out what their needs are. So in the planning phase, we're going to come up with a stakeholder management plan, and in there would have some type of metrics or communications plan or a way we go about engaging stakeholders, making sure we're on the right channel, make sure we're communicating enough, and then making sure we have ways to get instant feedback from the stakeholders and the project team members, right? So bringing this on to assess and manage risks, right? What was my guidance from day one? We should do what first? Put it in the chat. Assess, right? We're always assessing the situation. Project managers is always assessing the situation. Situational awareness is a power skill you must have. Your head's always got to be on a swivel, right? If not, you're going to get caught slipping all the time. So you always assessing. Somebody brings you a problem, you're like, well, okay, that sounds good. So how does that affect the project? Oh, I hear what you're saying, but how does that affect the project? All right, that's how you have to look at these things. Not, oh, well, you know what? Let's just do this. No. We have a bad habit of that in reality, to give a solution without even looking and analyzing the problem thoroughly, right? We all do that. I do it sometimes. So I know we all have been. But yeah, identifying, managing project risks. We're always looking for risks, how to mitigate them, how to resolve them, how to manage them. Sometimes we have to accept them and work with the risks, and then sometimes those risks can be opportunities, maybe, in a sense of procurement. Any procurement specialists out there? Where are my government contract folks who deal with contract? What's the best contract setup for the customer?
Firm fixed price.
Yes, for the customer, yes, right? So once the price is set, if they burn more materials, too bad, homie. Your loss, right? And so that's the worst setup for what's the best for, and this is what happens in the agile, with an agile or a project where the scope is undefined or it's not clear, it's ambiguous. What's one on the flip side would be, there we go, times and material, right? That's the worst contract for the customer, but it's the best for the actual vendor, because if they really want it, if they have a big checkbook, we'll just keep iterating. Like, hey, if it's not good enough, then okay, we'll go back to the drawing board, because you know what? You're paying for it. Long as we keep this going, you're going to keep dishing out that money. So, that's a risk for the vendor or the project, the customer. So those are some things we got to think about. Risk, determine risk management, continuously assess and prioritize risk, implement and monitor mitigation action. So one of your biggest things as we get through with the planning, especially in the domains you have project work cycles, one of the project management domains is uncertainty, dealing with uncertainty, and there's a lot of risk there. So when things are uncertain, there's a lot of risk there. We have to learn how to mitigate those, identify them, come up with risk responses to them. If not, because sometimes we don't have enough information about the risk to actually develop a risk response to it. So we have to wait, kind of move, like we would say, movement to contact. We know something's bad is gonna happen, but we won't know until it actually happened, and then we just have to be cool about it. Keep our heads about ourselves, keep our situational awareness up, assess the situation, and then use our expert judgment to apply corrective action. So let me see. Did I miss? Okay, we're almost there. These are the principles. We started with this. If you, in your PMBOK Guide 7, more so in the standards of project management, that's in the first book. Remember I said the PMBOK Guide has 2 books, the standards for project management, and then the PMBOK Guide itself. So the principles of project management, we've touched on these a little bit, different ones during the last sessions. And so those principles are what's going to help us guide us through this process of, stewardship, team, stakeholders, value, system thinking, value and engagement, tailoring, quality, all those items. All right. So let's make sure we're on point with those. You're going to reference those frequently. All right. Because like I said, the material, it says that these principles are not sequential. They're overlapping. So you could be using leadership at any time during a project. You could be dealing with team members at any time during a project. Value is always a priority on a project, right? That's why projects are started, not just because we want to hire more project managers, because the company wants to make money. So the market conditions are great. Business analyst says, hey, we launch these projects, we will make some money. So let's do it, boss. These are foundational principles, right? They're foundational, and this is to help us reference. If we don't know, let's go to theory and then see what it is in reality and make a decision. So the performance domains are aligned from PMBOK Guide 6 is what they're telling us. There's a graph in the beginning of PMBOK Guide 7 that shows, hey, this is where we're coming from PMBOK Guide 6, and this is the new mindset. So yes, the planning process groups, the project management process groups still exist, but however, we have these performance domains, dealing with stakeholders, team, planning, development, approach, life cycles, project work, delivery, measurement. And in measurement, that's where we are going to be looking at the different, there we go. Somebody, as that Travis, I think, has it up. T Money, Casper, AKA Casper, has it up. So yeah, that's it right there. That's the image right there. So this is a good image. And thanks for that. Thanks for that, Travis. This gives you a concept where PMBOK Guide 6 is transitioning to PMBOK Guide 7. And that was the big shift, because for a very long time, I know from, I would say before PMBOK Guide 5, and that's when I got into the game, that it's been that way. And so as it comes online with new way of working, technology, innovation has changed, and they're like, hey, we need to find other ways to manage projects, because this this predictive approach and traditional approach, it doesn't work for this, the way we're working now. So that's why we are transitioning. And you've heard me say before, and PMBOK Guide 8 is coming. We will have AI in there. I've already, one thing about once you become certified, you have to take your PDUs. And one thing I do, and I advise you all to do it, don't check the block, right? Well, people's like, well, Chris, you got your PMP back in the day, so how could you be up on what all is going on? I said, because that's what you do. That's why you have PDUs. So if you need to collect your PDUs to over your every 3 years, you have to have 60 hours, then study something that's new so you stay relevant, right? Dr. Ricardo Vargas, I believe is his name. He's the thought leader and the leading person in PMI on AI and project management. I've been following this guy for the last 2 years. And if you go into PMI.org and go to some of the webinars, you could just follow him on LinkedIn. If you want to know how to use AI with project management, that's the guy right there, right? He's leading it. Yep. See, somebody already knows. So my word is, I'm putting out good stuff here. Good stuff here. So this guy is, you want to know, he talking about how to use the tools, how to help us process data quickly, just helping us as a project manager. And he said it best. AI is not going to replace project managers. Project managers who know how to use AI will replace project managers who don't. So if you want to hold your job, and he has an AI. I was in his course, but he has an AI, and they're coming. I think PMI has already started it because they saw what he's doing, and he is already going with that. So boom, somebody's already got it out. There we go. CT monies are new game. All right, let's stay focused. Don't put that out there yet. Don't get people going. That's that. Good find. So the test will change. So that's why I'm telling everybody that, hey, let's get on it, get it done now. But yeah, AI is definitely something he talks about a lot. So check on learning really quick before we take a break. Check on learning. What best describes the role of communications management in projects? What do you guys think? Okay. Comms plan. Okay, that's a good one in a good direction. Making sure it's understood, right? Clarification, confirmation. Yes, you're on the right track. Ensuring communication is understood and feedback is received. All right, making sure comms is clear, clarity and brevity. All right, especially when you're pushing out things over distance. Brevity is key, I think. But if you need to send a chunk of data, then make sure you communicate that. Like, I'm sending you a large piece of information. So this is what it is, and I need you to read it. So next one, which project management principle focuses on responding to dependencies and complexities within a project system? There we go. Almost. System behavior. There we go. System thinking. Good job. Good job. Good job. What best describes the purpose of project performance domains? Why do we have them? What's the whole purpose? Go broader. Go 30,000 feet. That's a good one. Alignment. Alignment with what? Environment, expectations, business goals, stakeholders, alignment. Yep. Responsibilities. They represent interrelated areas critical to project outcomes. Right? The project performance domains are critical. They help shape project outcomes, right? The better we are at executing and fulfilling those domain tasks, then the better, in theory, our projects will be, and then in theory, more success we will have with our projects. So, awesome. Let's take 10-minute break. Not bad. Not bad. Let's take a 10-minute, get some water. I think I'm gonna get some coffee. And we'll be back. We'll be back. Any questions before I go? Really quick. Quick fire question. What you got?